Next up is Sissy Delmas. In Fusionfall, Sissy decided to drop everything and shop until a fusion would make her drop. So because of that, she migrated to Townsville Center and took Daddy's credit card with her. There, she befriended Princess Morbucks and one of the other characters that resides there. Sissy's fusion is located at X.A.N.A Academy and assists in terrorizing the school. Her missions are simple and revolve around going to ask her father for more money on her credit cards, as well as sending love letters to Ulrich, most of which he trashes immediately. Sissy does not engage in combat. Sissy is dead in the future. But now, unfortunately, as we'd rather not talk about things...
I'd rather not talk about it.
And no, Mr. Smiley, I don't mean you. I mean none other than Jim Morales. In the Fusionfall universe, on top of all the other things he'd rather not talk about in the original show, Jim also would rather not talk about his time as a plumber, or a Providence agent, or a Whoop agent, or his time assisting the kids next door, or the time he spent with the crystal gems, or, trust me, it makes sense if you watch this show. Whether or not these are true, and honestly, a good chunk of them are, Jim has been seen as a reliable asset in the war. So that would mean he'd be on the front lines in the Darklands, right? Wrong! Jim is located on Camp Wawanakwa. In Fusionfall, Jim leads the small battalion of fighters on the island that use their guerrilla tactics in hopes of taking back the infamous Total Drama Island. So because of that, Jim is hanging out with both Jasper and Brick MacArthur on the island. You can learn more about Jasper in the Steven Universe video, and more about Brick when I eventually do Total Drama. So with that, the trio of fighters are there defending the island from fusion monsters. So because of this, Jim's missions will normally revolve around helping to fight said monsters on said island. But not only is this true, but Jim ends up intervening on some of the other missions, and actually ends up giving advice that is actually quite helpful. Of course, when he asks how he knows these things, you get the age-old answer, I'd rather not talk about it. Jim's fusion is located at Pokey Oaks Junior High Infected Zone on the basketball court. It's his job to interfere with the kids next door Sector V treehouse. Jim has a nano in the post stages of development, and his nano item is a whistle. Jim does engage in combat using makeshift weapons on Wawanakwa. Jim is alive in the future. Now we have Jean-Pierre Delmas, who is a very simple NPC. He is located at X.A.N.A Academy. In Fusionfall, when the war began, Mr. Delmas did his best to try and keep the school up and running, and did a decent job at doing so, since there are still many children that go to the school. But due to things like fusion monsters being the dormitories and such, boarding has unfortunately been suspended for the time being. Ironically enough, his daughter decided to take more than his credit card, as her fusion resides within his office, forcing him to stay outside of there. His missions simply revolve around protecting the school. Mr. Delmas has a fusion who generally tries to impersonate him to get the goals of fusions to be carried out. Mr. Delmas has a nano in the early stages of development. Mr. Delmas is dead in the future. And finally, to end it all, we have X.A.N.A. Now, as previously mentioned, X.A.N.A has a particular hatred for Fuse. The main reason being that his initial coding wanted him to create a world without danger. And unfortunately, a world with Fuse doesn't quite fit that vision. This decided to have him change tactics. Rather than attack the humans, he wanted to defend them in this case, as he deemed them a much lesser threat. But Fuse saw the threat in X.A.N.A as well, and destroyed his supercomputers, which were scattered across the world, leaving him stranded on Lyoko. But X.A.N.A was saved when Mandark liberated him from his prison. The evil boy genius built XANA, a mobile unit similar to Computress, only decked out with the Eye of XANA as well as the Mandark Industries logo. Mandark wanted XANA to join forces with him in a permanent partnership. And on that day, XANA did the closest thing he had ever done to laughing as he proceeded to cross the street and assist the superior mind. With that, XANA was appointed to round-the-clock surveillance to make sure everything's okay. Because of this, XANA has you do missions involving setting up and fixing the cameras around the world of Fusionfall, as well as the occasional help with both Dex Labs and Mandark Industries. XANA at times feels he can attempt to take on Fuse himself, but knows not to try. XANA doesn't have a fusion or a nano, simply because he's made of code. XANA doesn't really die since there are still machines in the future, so yes, he is still alive. And with all that being said, we're done with Code Lyoko. And man, that was fun. With all the parts that were done, I had a blast, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. You're gonna whoop and holler for the next one, because we have a totally cool show on the way. So stay tuned. Until next time, this has been the Lyoko Gem, warping out.